Good morning. Welcome to Saturday's Early Morning Intuitive Guidance. I'm Dr. Bonnie Nussbaum, here with some words of wisdom to start your day. And man, we have some words of wisdom today. I'm really excited to share this with you, and it's probably going to spread over into at least one more day, if not a couple more days. And it might be a little additionally relevant to our Common Ground conversations that Jo Neal Connolly and I do every week. But I'm going to start here, and we'll see if she likes the concept. We might grab it and share it there also. Good morning, Catherine. Welcome. You are the first one here today. Lucky you. Welcome, welcome. There's Cindy following suit. Good morning. Good morning. And Nancy rolling in. Awesome. My little counter still says 1, and I've talked to 3 of you already. You know, it's that new math, right? Actually, speaking of math, I'm going to do a little aside because something else I learned. My brain was just stretched yesterday. That's my friend Flo says that. Stretch our brains. Good morning, Barb. Welcome, welcome. And anyway, I finished the Brene Brown Atlas of the Heart, and that's what I want to share out of. Good morning, Brenda. Glad you are here. Welcome. But I'm also doing Escaping the Housing Trap. And it comes from Strong Towns, which if you aren't familiar with Strong Towns, brilliant minds solving housing problems. But the piece in this story that I want to share with some friends of mine today is some appalling research that basically shows when they value properties for tax purposes, at the higher ends, the most expensive houses, good morning, Gwen, glad you're here, they grossly undervalue those houses, so their tax rate is significantly lower than poor neighborhoods where you're paying commensurate with what your house is worth. Widespread across the nation. Be interesting to have people do a little survey themselves in terms of, okay, how do the affluent neighborhoods assessments look compared to the actual resale value of those homes compared to the poor neighborhoods? Very mind-boggling, but there's interesting research in there on that. So just an aside, numbers are very useful. They can serve us. So today, again, I'm going to break this up into multiple pieces. Good morning, Abigail. Glad you're here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And there's 7 of you on here, so I know I missed saying hi to a few of you. Good morning. Good morning, good morning. And I get to have a really fun morning. I have 2 different coffee dates this morning. So at 8 o'clock, I'm meeting my friends Rayford and Sue. And then at 10:30, I am meeting my friend Janice. So getting around. What I'd like us to do for today, first of all, I'd like us to breathe in and out a few times. I'll walk us through it. First, I need a drink. To really open up to receiving this concept I want to share today, because it is the groundwork for the next concepts we're going to be talking about. And those next concepts are the key pivotal point in turning around communication. Pretty cool stuff. So let's start with the breath. In through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. One more for good measure. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Now, what I want to say on the front end about this concept is I almost laughed out loud as I was getting to the end of the book, and she quoted one of my favorite quotes, which is the Anne Lamott quote about helping is the sunny side of control. Good morning, Maureen. Glad you are here. And that fits in with this concept that we're going to be talking about, which is near enemies. N-E-A-R, near enemies. And when it was described, it's like, oh, this makes total sense. And this is a piece that's been missing from my thought process in helping me understand why is communication so messed up, and why I've had 3 recent significant opportunities, also known as run-ins, where this was the concept that was operating, and because I didn't know it or understand it, that's why things ran amok. That's why things ran amok. So hopefully by this point I have instilled enough wonder and awe and curiosity in you that you're ready for this. All right? So for those of you who have the book, it's actually page 250. 250. So she's talking about she herself. Good morning, Janine. Glad you're here. Welcome, welcome. She's talking about creating a new theory, taking all of her research and bringing it together into this theory. Good morning, Mel. Glad you're here. That leads to cultivating meaningful connection. That's what she's calling it. CMC, cultivating meaningful connection. So, first concept she said we need to understand is near enemies. So let me read her stuff. Breathe, nice deep breaths, being as open as possible to receiving this, because there's 11 of you on here now, and me. And I'm going to be talking about this with all of my friends I'm having breakfast with. Because to me, this is such an important thing. I didn't even know it had a name. Here it is, near enemies. And she says, she's kind of tongue-in-cheek here. Now that I've forced you through a primer on theory building, I'm going to share a new theory with you that's the culmination of my work since the beginning, and I do mean the very start. My dissertation is actually on connection. This new work is a theory on cultivating meaningful connection. While this new theory draws heavily on all my previous work, there was something missing. A piece that I couldn't quite figure out until I started this research. That elusive piece was rediscovering the Buddhist concept of near enemies. Studying near enemies took me down the research rabbit hole, and the more I read, the more I realized that for years I've underestimated this concept's power and contribution to explaining human behavior. I explained it in chapter 7, where we talk about pity being the near enemy of compassion. So think about that. Pity and compassion probably look kind of similar on the surface. They are not at all, hang on, my nose is running. They're not at all the same beast when you dig deeper. And in fact, those near enemies undermine the thing they're the near enemy of. So pity undermines compassion. They look similar on the surface, but it undermines compassion. She says, before we get into the new theory, I want to dig deeper. So there were several writers that she was talking about. Kristen Neff, Chris Germer, and Jack Kornfield. I was familiar with all of them except Chris. Write about near enemies. To get our heads and hearts around this concept, I thought I'd share a different definition and a couple of examples. So, Chris Germer says, near enemies are states that appear similar to the desired quality, but actually undermine it. Far enemies are the opposite of what we're trying to achieve. So, for example, a near enemy of loving kindness is sentimentality. Similar but different. A far enemy of loving kindness is ill will, the opposite of loving kindness. Similarly, a near enemy of compassion is pity, and a far enemy is cruelty. Without the language of near and far enemies, and without the tools of emotional granularity and self-awareness, the difference between how we want to show up and the near enemies of these practices feels nuanced. But this type of nuance predicts the difference between wholeheartedness and brokenheartedness. Oof, right? Oof. So, Jack Kornfield explains that near enemies may seem like the qualities that we believe are important and may even be mistaken for them, but they are different and often undermine our practices. He writes, the near enemies depict how spirituality can be misunderstood or misused to separate us from life. Do we have any of that going on in our country right now? When I read that last sentence, I had to break it down and reread it about 20 times. The near enemies depict how spirituality can be misunderstood or misused to separate us from life and from each other. So she says, then Brene's talking about that with regard to spirituality, just to take it a step deeper. I define spirituality as the deeply held belief that we are inextricably connected to each other by something greater than ourselves. I have friends who are atheists who every day practice inextricable connection. They hurt when others hurt, and they know that none of us are free until all of us are free. And I have friends who talk endlessly about their religion and wear scripture on their t-shirts, yet demonstrate no connection to anyone's suffering but their own, and maybe that of the people in their immediate circle. I make this point because we're not talking about religion here. We're talking about the irrepressible human spirit. So her translation of this is, on the surface, the near enemies of emotions or experiences might look like and even feel like connection, but ultimately they drive us to be disconnected from ourselves and from each other. Without awareness, near enemies become the practices that fuel separation rather than practices that reinforce inextricable connection of all people. And right about there, I started right about there, I started thinking about near misses, the near misses that I've generated with people, and the near misses that I've experienced when seeking connection with others. I have friends that I actually avoid talking to about my stuff because these hijacks happen. So I'll share one with you right off the bat here, which is the one that came up for me at this point. It's when we take over someone else's story. Good morning, Linda. So someone says, I'm having a really bad time. X, Y, and Z is going on. I know, same thing's happening for me, blah, blah, blah. Instead of stopping, getting quiet, listening. Tell me more. What's going on? Being present. One of the main reasons, and rather than beating ourselves up about this, I will tell you, I believe, as a psychologist, I believe one of the reasons we do that, yes, there's the mistaken belief that brings us alongside somebody. It doesn't. But I also believe it's because we ourselves, good morning, Trace, glad you're here. I think you're going to love this stuff. We ourselves are not getting our own needs met enough so that when someone else pokes that button, say they start talking about a physical illness, pokes that button for us, and we start spewing our own stuff instead of being able to be fully present for them in their difficulty. That doesn't mean that we can't say, I've had similar experiences, but don't run off with it then. Stay present, stay present. So let me keep going here. As she says, this is huge. To really get this concept in our bones, I want to share 2 more examples with you from Jack Kornfield. On love, he writes, the near enemy of love is attachment. Attachment masquerades as love. It says, I will love this person because I need something from them. Or I love you if you'll love me back. I'll love you, but only if you will be the way I want you to be. This isn't the fullness of love. Instead, there is attachment. There is clinging and fear. True love allows, honors, and appreciates. Attachment grasps, demands, needs, and aims to possess. Holy shit, you guys. Holy shit, this is big stuff. On equanimity, which is one of my favorite words, equanimity and magnanimity, I love them. He writes, the near enemy of equanimity is indifference or callousness. So equanimity is basically when you can allow things to roll. You can just be with stuff. You don't have to get sucked into the drama, right? But the near enemy is indifference or callousness. We may appear serene if we say, I'm not attached. It doesn't matter what happens anyway because it's all transitory. We feel a certain peaceful relief because we withdraw from experience and from the energies of life. But indifference is based on fear. So again, and I had this with a friend yesterday. We were talking about a circumstance with some of her peeps, and how the last time they got together, it went down a low vibration, negative place, and she didn't want to be there. She's working to heal some health stuff, and she wants uplifting. She wants high vibration. And here they were, swirling around in the cesspool of negative emotion. So then we were talking about what's appropriate to address that. And many of the things that she came up with put her in the position of controlling the conversation. Good morning, Charlotte. Glad you're here. Put her in the position of trying to micromanage how the next visit was going to go. And so I was kind of pointing that out gently. And God love her, she was so open to hearing what I was trying to say, which helped me do some healing. Because many times when I attempt to hold the mirror up for certain people, family members, friends, etc., I hit the resistance because they're not ready. They don't want to see that. But in my trying to express my need with them, here's what I need from you right now. I'm stuck and I'm hurting and I'm wherever. Here's what I need from you. I need you to be the mirror for me. And they can't go there. They pop into Mrs. Fix-It, or they just, whatever. They sit in judgment, those sneaky little judgments, and we'll get to some of that stuff because it's so good. This is so good. So again, continuing with the equanimity one, he says, and this is Jack Kornfield quoted in Brene Brown, indifference is based on fear. True equanimity is not a withdrawal. It is a balanced engagement with all aspects of life. It is opening to the whole of life with composure and ease of mind, accepting the beautiful and terrifying nature of all things. So she says, I needed the concept of near enemies because when it comes to cultivating meaningful connection, the far enemies, the real opposites, are not what get in the way most of the time. They're easy to recognize. If someone shuts us down, I don't want to hear about it. That's pretty clear. That's the enemy of connection, right? Pretty clear. A far enemy. They're easy to recognize. We don't get tricked into believing that everything is okay. They are upfront with their disconnection. It's the near enemies of connection, the imposters that can look and feel like cultivating closeness, that sabotage relationships and leave us feeling alone and in pain. And because they're so stealthy, we often internalize the pain and think that there's something wrong with us. Anybody going to raise a hand? Can I get an amen? Right? Near enemies can feel like manipulation and even gaslighting. Of course, the far enemies destroy connection too, but you see them coming. You see them coming. So I'm going to stop right there. We've got tons of good stuff that we'll go over the next couple of days. But what I want you to hang on to out of this is this idea of near enemies, that it's an emotion or an attempt at connection or whatever that's a near miss. It's a near miss. It does not hit it on the spot. And oftentimes, what it's off is our own unwillingness to own that particular conversation makes us uncomfortable. And so we do this near enemy reaction thing that we're hoping is enough to assuage the other person's yuck, and we don't have to deal with it. Leaves everybody feeling dissatisfied. And White Fragility. If you haven't read White Fragility, that's a great book that fits in this, also absolutely fits for the state of things. And we're going to see even more of that. There's so many things flooding my mind about this. So an interesting thing, if you get the Heather Cox Richardson Letters from an American, her daily, when she talked about, good morning, Helen, glad you're here, welcome. When she talked about President Jimmy Carter's funeral and the interactions that went on among all of the still living presidents who were present at the funeral, and who sat by who and how they managed that was so interesting. So interesting. For me, and I won't tell you what it is. I'm going to make you go look it up. So it's Heather Cox Richardson, Letters from an American, and it was on the day of Jimmy Carter's funeral. Find that one. It's amazing. When I looked at how people reacted, and it was across party lines. To a specific individual who was there, I could see the higher order functioning, and knew for myself, excuse me, that I likely would have been one of the people at the lower functioning level. A coffee party, wouldn't that be amazing? That'd be awesome. You know what we could do too sometime? An online coffee. Everybody brings their beverage. We get on a Zoom and have some conversation. That'd be interesting. Okay, I'm going to tuck that in the memory bank. I have to clear my plate a little bit of some more stuff that is no longer serving me. I'm in the process of doing so, which will then open up space for stuff that would serve me. You know, and I have never been to the Upper East Coast. That's the only area of the United States that I have never been to. It's on the bucket list. So, I'm just smiling. Derailed. Yep. Shiny. Squirrel. This stuff, guys, is so important. There's 12 of you on right now. By the end of the day, hopefully it'll be up to like 100 people who've watched this. Really, please grab onto this concept. See where it fits in your life. I'll share more. We're going to talk about this more and more because this is such good stuff in terms of helping us figure out where we are right now, where we don't want to be, and how are we going to get to where we do want to be. Hopefully tomorrow we'll see how this plays out in terms of me doing more with this. But there's a little cartoon in here that she had drawn of a conversation, role play that was done that so spot on describes this near miss stuff. And it demonstrates the near miss and then a true connection, a near miss and then a true connection throughout the course of a conversation. Amazing stuff. So hopefully this has kind of geared you up and made you excited and like, ooh, we can actually fix this. We have things we can do that will actually create connection. So hope you're as excited about this as I am. Nice deep breath in and out. Now I'm going to challenge all of you. Go out and somewhere today, phone call, someone in your household, sending a letter already, whatever, have a little conversation about, there we go, online coffee, you're in, fabulous, let's do this thing. All right, I'll get it set up. And I'm thinking, you know, try to pick a day and a time when people may tend to be around. Like, I don't know, an earlier Sunday morning or something. We'll figure it out. Maybe I'll do a survey. I will do a survey on what day and time you think is the best. Like, give me your top 3. Let's do that. All right. Good morning, Cheryl. Welcome. So in the feed, if you want to put 3 days and times that tend to be pretty wide open for you. I just said Sunday morning because I think most people don't have stuff other than church, probably. But we know that the vast majority of people no longer go to church. So we'll figure it out. But this is where we're at. This is cool stuff. I'm excited. Have an awesome day. We'll see you again tomorrow. Remember, you're capable of far more than you think you are. Bye-bye.